but a lot of people who follow the league closely, a lot of journalists, a lot of pundits, had worried a little bit about Atalanta this season. You know, were they going to be able to keep up with what they've managed over the last few seasons under Gasperini? There has been obviously the loss of Papu Gomez. Ilicic is someone they depended on, but not always dependable. You know, they had lost obviously Golini and Romero to Tottenham Hotspurs. You know, large transfers away. Was it going to work with everything that they had changed? And yet this is their best ever start to a Serie A season. Gasperini is totally, I wouldn't want to say kicking butts all over the place. And they arrive at Napoli and deliver the most delicious spectacle ever until everyone started applauding them at the end. What a lovely stadium the Diego Maradona Stadium is.
Look, there are people I know who've had some pretty bad experiences around that stadium as well. So, of course, with every football stadium, there's good and bad. But it was certainly a wonderful, wonderful thing what happened on Sunday night. Because I think what you had was two football teams who, look, I'm not necessarily going to tell you that this was the best technical football you'll ever see in your life. Some of it was very, very good. I'm sure that there is space within what happened on Sunday for someone to be a grump about it and say, well, if you came here and played sensible football, if you came here and didn't play in such an open way, you could have avoided some of these goals. You could have actually manipulated them. I don't care.
Is that someone
I don't care. Because what happened was Luciano Spalletti, who was out basically half his starting 11 at this point. No Victor Osimhen, no Anguissa, no Fabian Ruiz, no Lorenzo Insigne. I'm missing someone else off that list as well. He's literally missing half the starting 11. Koulibaly, of course, and that's a really important one, actually, given what happens. Could say exactly what Jose Mourinho says later on, by the way, and we'll get to that. Don't worry, Mourinho, opinion holders, because we're going to get to Jose and say, I've got nothing left. Woe is me. And he didn't. He said, all right, then I'm going to come up with a 3-4-3 that's sort of trying to mirror Atalanta's. And we're going to say, Atalanta want to play all in these one-on-ones. They trust their players. They empower them. They say, you can win the one-on-ones, and that's how we're going to attack teams. We're going to press high. And Spalletti said, we're just going to do the same, and we're going to try and do it better than them. And look, in the end, it didn't work, right? Because they lost. But my God, it made for a fun 90 minutes of football. I really, really enjoyed this game. I enjoyed it too much.
Yeah, it was one of those games where you're like, oh, it's so open. Like, if you're like me and you're so used to watching defensive things, you're like, be careful, no, stop. And that was pretty much me watching this game, you know. But you're right, it was so tremendous to watch. I love that they mirrored each other. I love that it was duels all over the pitch. I love that there was just so much ambition shown to score the goals. I mean, to hell with defense, right? And it was interesting, actually, because a lot of people had said that, you know, they're losing Osimhen, they're losing Anguissa, and then how much of the goals would be missing. But it doesn't matter because they had the best defensive record. But they don't anymore because their midfield. Exactly. And I think that's what makes it so much fun, is that they aren't really concentrating on the defensive, and they have lost key players, obviously, because Anguissa is that player that secures your defense, your midfield, and that line and the strength within it is what gives you the security at the back. And then missing Koulibaly as well makes a difference, right? And they changed everything, so going, you know, at the back. So that, obviously, I understand that. But here's the thing, like, everyone was like, look, why were we even worried about Napoli? Look at the way that they, you know, handed Lazio their ass, basically, you know, as in, it was just a case of, it was just such beautiful football, obviously Mertens scoring non-stop, and you just looked at Lazio so deflated, so incapable of even doing a single thing on that pitch, and Napoli won so easily and convincingly. And then I just have this thing about Napoli that I'm always a little bit scared about. And then they played Sassuolo, and it was rightly disallowed, that goal at the end for Defrel, and it finished all equal at 2-2. But frankly speaking, Napoli could have lost that game. And the one thing that scared me is, why wasn't Diego Demme introduced beforehand? I like it when they have more of a physical presence in midfield, because it's a lot of beauty in that game. But sometimes they are a little soft, Napoli. And you need your, I think it makes a difference, for example, when Lobotka was hurt and had to be taken off, because you need that kind of player for Napoli. And I feel like if they were going to invest in others, they need to keep bringing these guys in, So I looked at them against Sassuolo and thought they're going to get smashed against Atalanta, but they didn't. And I thought it was so impressive, considering the fact that they lost so many of their players, that they don't have some of their stars, that they're obviously like much of their spine, like you had mentioned. And yet they put everything out there. They didn't make excuses for themselves. And I love the way that Spalletti talks, because that is what changes mentality. When you're always doing the woe is me, it annoys me so much. But I love that Spalletti's saying, I don't care. We're not using that as an excuse. We're going to go and we're going to try to win this game, because that's what Atalanta do. They have played against Manchester United, against all the top clubs without some of their best players. And they do their best and always entertain. And Napoli is now that side.
Yeah, Atalanta is also still that side. I mean, my favourite moment of this game, without doubt, is Rafael Toloi, a centre-back, playing a beautiful down the right channel through ball for Mary Demiral, a centre-back who, for some reason, in the 60th minute or whatever it was, later than that, 70th minute, is literally charging into the Napoli box. You're thinking, how did you get there? I need to wind back the tape and find out how that happened. And it working, and Demiral scoring a brilliant goal, and having just been at fault, by the way, on the goal they conceded to Mertens. I loved. I'm just transitioning this conversation from Napoli. I completely agree with you about Spalletti. I love that mindset, but I'm transitioning it to Atalanta, who did, after all, win this game, because I think that what sort of made it so, the childlike beauty of it, that comes out for me, is Gasperini at the end of the game saying, "This is the football I've had in my head, and Atalanta let me do it. Like, defenders attacking, everyone attacking. This is like." I can't remember his exact phrasing, but it was basically that, I've had this idea in my head of how football should be played. And over the last few years, basically, Atalanta has said, yeah, you can do that. And it turns out the ideas he has in his head have been good enough to finish in the top four now repeatedly, have been good enough to make them a competitive side in the Champions League. We still don't know if they're going to get through to the knockout stage. They've got a tough last game. They've got to beat Villarreal, but still, it's very much on the cards, which, given their situation, their budget, is already impressive. And it's got them in a position where people are asking him sincerely whether or not this team can win the Scudetto. And look, I thought he had a good answer for that as well. He said, we can have this conversation when we've been top once, because we haven't been top at any point in the last few seasons. And do you know what? That's a good answer. But they're 4 points off first, Mina. They're 7 points off fifth. And that's a pretty impressive statement yet again for a team that I said before this season started, I thought just by the law of football physics was going to have to come back a little bit down sooner or later.